You wouldn't last an hour in the asylum they raised me in.
Get that stuff out of here! It's Southwest Bias!
Welcome into Southwest Bias, brought to you by our friends at Branded Bills. Elevate your brand with Branded Bills, headwear, and apparel. Use the promo code PHNX to get 20% off your first order. And yeah, you wouldn't survive in the asylum that they raised me in, the asylum of Arizona sports. But if a friend came to you and told you that they were in a relationship where they were promised something that never delivered, that the person doesn't really try to be good in the relationship, that they completely lack communication at times, that they've betrayed you, that they avoid the difficult topics, that they're manipulated, that they've been sabotaged, that there is an unequal power dynamic and there's guilting going on, that they constantly feel anxious and uncomfortable, and that the individual won't put a ring on it despite continually talking about it. You'd tell your friend to get the hell out of that relationship, wouldn't you? You wouldn't even hesitate to tell them to move on and find something better for themselves because they deserve better. Well, guess what? We're in that unhealthy relationship in Arizona sports, and with the Phoenix Suns in particular. Think about it. The Suns promised 2.5 years ago that it was championship or bust, that they were all in, that all they were focused on was getting to that podium and getting that ring. 2.5 years later, they haven't even sniffed that. They haven't come close. They don't try anymore. The lack of effort is completely disappointing most times. And sure, we'll see flashes of it, enough to keep us in a relationship, a 4-game run like a couple of weeks ago that makes us go, maybe this is the time it changes. Maybe I can make them a better team by just rooting harder. But then we get betrayed time and time again. And it's not just us that gets betrayed. I mean, Kevin Durant got betrayed by being part of trade talks, by almost getting dealt to Golden State without knowing. Betrayal's in the DNA of this season. They avoid talking about the difficult topics. Have you heard of Mike Budenholzer post-game press conference? You'd think this team was in the middle of the hunt for the West, that there wasn't that much wrong, that all they had to do was watch film or slightly tweak rotations and everything would be all right. We've been manipulated. I mean, saying everything is fine, acting like, oh, this isn't a big deal, acting like, oh, we'll figure it out. That hasn't come to fruition. This is unhealthy. It's very unhealthy for all of us. I mean, we've been sabotaged. I mean, fans have pit Devin Booker and Kevin Durant against each other online, and the fans of those players. Why? Why are we arguing about that? Is it because this team has pushed us to the edge? Is it because some of these fans aren't actually Suns fans and are just individual players fans? I don't know, but it's self-sabotaging in a lot of ways, and that's not the only sabotage. The Suns have sabotaged our enjoyment because Coach Mike Budenholzer wouldn't play the rookies early in this year. He sat them for a 2-month period, and the second he brought them in, they brought the energy and hustle and defensive tenacity that you hoped. Was it long-lasting? No. Was it sustainable? It wasn't. But the fact that those guys got buried on the bench, that's self-sabotaging at the highest level. Guilting. Unequal balance of power is there too. Kevin Durant sitting there telling us we should just leave? No, we shouldn't boot. We should just leave? Like it's our fault? Like we're the ones that should walk away because, it's a bad situation, but guilting us, making us feel bad about expressing our feelings and then playing mind games that we should leave? I mean, that's an unequal dynamic of power. We've seen, things going off on Twitter too, which is a weird thing. And that's not to say that Kevin Durant is responsible for everything this season, but that's been part of it. I feel anxious and uncomfortable every time we watch this team, wondering, are we going to see that team that tries? Are we going to care? Are they going to put forth the effort? Believe me, like I talked about a few episodes ago, I want to see this team win, but it's become nerve-wracking to try to figure out how or why. And then you just kind of become apathetic and numb because you know what? When these things happen in a relationship, that's what you do. You turn inward. You stop enjoying being there. You sometimes go catatonic with it. And guess what? They're never going to put a ring on it. At least not in the near future. This group isn't. That's not healthy. Isn't that what we're all striving for? Wasn't that what we were sold on? We're in an unhealthy relationship with the Phoenix Suns. And the only way for it to get better is for every single aspect of the franchise to take responsibility when this season ends in a few weeks. Mat Ishbia is to blame. Josh Bartelstein's to blame. James Jones is to blame. Mike Budenholzer's to blame. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker are to blame. Every player on that roster is to blame. Every coach on that bench. Everybody is to blame for why this turned into such an unhealthy relationship. And to those of you that say, well, James Jones, he deserves another chance. I mean, put your circular logic away. You want to blame Mat Ishbia, and that's fine. Mat Ishbia has made his own poor mistakes. So has Josh Bartelstein. Guess what? You don't fire the owner. And the guy that's been sitting there for over 8 years, that's had opportunities, that has failed, that obviously didn't have enough trust from ownership to be the guy that runs it, he is likely going to be one of the fall guys. Maybe Josh Bartelstein will. I don't know. But every single aspect of this franchise has to own that they were part of the problem. And now, starting with Mat Ishbia, they have to find the solutions. Mike Budenholzer has not run a tight ship, has not held everybody responsible like supposedly he was going to come in and do. Devin Booker has been hit or miss at times. Kevin Durant has had his own distractions at times. But they're not the main culprits. But that doesn't mean that they can't take some culpability for what happened. Look throughout the roster. Everybody does. Every assistant coach does. And if they're not willing to do that, if serious changes aren't made, then we have to examine why we're in this unhealthy relationship and if we're willing to stay around. Because sometimes, if somebody's not willing to help themselves, you're definitely not going to be able to help them, whether you cheer, boo, or spend your own money on it. So, Suns, please, figure it out. So we don't want to leave this relationship. We just want it to get better. But maybe that's just my Southwest bias. On the other side of the break, we talk torpedo bats with our friend, the Mayor, Derek Montilla. I got to tell you about my friends over at All Pro Shade Concepts. Look, a lot of people will tell you about a product without ever having used them. But I've worked with these guys, and they are fantastic. I had a giant sliding glass door that I needed a shade for. It was a problem in the summer. Our kitchen got so hot that you could barely stand near that sliding glass door, and we couldn't find a solution. That was until All Pro Shade Concepts came over. They measured everything. They showed us everything that they had in terms of materials and let us match it to our house. I love it. They came out and installed it. It didn't take very long, and it was high quality. I'm telling you, the best service I've ever dealt with in any product for my home. I love All Pro Shade Concepts, and you will too. So call them at 623-204-1476 or visit allproshadeconcepts.com now to schedule your free estimate like I did. Well, baseball season is underway, and just like we thought, we're talking about torpedo bats because the Arizona Diamondbacks find themselves in New York taking on the Yankees, and there's only one man to bring on the program when that happens. He's the mayor of PHNX. Yeah, I'm saying it. I'm admitting it. It's Derek Montilla. Derek, how are you, man?
I am great, and I'm ready to cheat at life to get ahead.
Do we really think the torpedo bat is cheating? Do we really think that this is something that people should be getting so bent out of shape about?
I think it's happening because it's the Yankees doing it. If it's the Yankees, I mean, you already had the supposed scandal that never really became a scandal about them using different sized balls during, Aaron Judge's run there that he hit all those home runs. I think it's the fact that they're a big market team and people always want to make them into the villain. And honestly, it's also because this does seem odd, like changing the dynamic of a bat to have essentially the barrel be moved down to the label is weird. It's not unheard of. It's not that this hasn't been something that people have tried before. It's just something that kind of directly coincided with the Yankees absolutely going off on one of their first games of the season and hitting a bunch of home runs and causing people to have even more suspicion about these bats.
Yeah, I mean, they do not violate the law of baseball. There's nothing in the rule book that prohibits this. I feel like if it were the A's or the Rays, we'd be talking about, oh, what a genius way to try to make things, more even because they have a lower payroll and all that kind of stuff. I think really people should be mad at the Milwaukee Brewers pitching staff sucking. I feel like that's more of what happened here than anything, but as a Diamondbacks fan, should we be concerned about this in this series?
Yes, I think we should. I don't think this is not reason for concern. The Yankees offense is incredible right now. They're on a roll. And you also have a guy named Paul Goldschmidt that we used to know over there hitting some dingers already. I do think that the reason why this should not be any kind of scandal is because there is no standard bat size. There is no standard bat makeup. You can have a bat be made of maple. You can have a bat be made of ash. You can have a bat up to 42 inches. It can be shorter, and it can have different impacts, right? Like so, I feel like baseball bats have always been allowed to have different different things about them, different attributes that even a batter might want to use a different bat depending on the situation, like you would a golf club in certain situations on the green, right? So you have the fact that it's the Yankees doing it, but this really just isn't uncommon. This is something that happens in baseball. We used to laugh about Jock Peterson last season and his random bat collection that he had of other players' bats. And I don't know how he acquired these bats. That's the bigger story, is how he was getting the bats being given to him. But he had a variety of bats that he would use for different situations. And he found quite a bit of success with this team last year doing that.
I mean, you brought up golf. I feel like this is in part because it's baseball. I mean, think about how much clubs have changed in golf. Like, should they be hitting with wood drivers still? I mean,
good point.
And look, this isn't the first time we've seen the torpedo bat. This isn't new. Shane, can you play that clip from Derek and my childhood?
Last out, batter. You're going to lose.
Not this time. Oh, no, the steroids. I got the original torpedo bat.
Mark McGwire.
Only the torpedo bat and the clear and the cream home run power. Mark McGwire set the home run record. If you want home run power, you want the torpedo bat. Hey, kids, chicks dig the girth and the long ball. Now Mark McGwire's signature is printed in anabolic steroid on every bat. I mean, Derek, we grew up with that.
Yeah, that commercial is a little different than I remember it, but still iconic.
Completely unedited. That is how it aired in our childhood on Saturday mornings during the cartoons. That is exactly it. The torpedo bat was
cream in the center. What is it? A Twinkie? What was the cream part about? I don't remember that.
Hey man, you don't know what's in a torpedo bat or in your slugger that's using it. That's just the point here. All right. So
Mhm.
I don't understand the big deal. We've all been playing with torpedo bats forever. I do not remember the chick stick the girth and the long ball. I think that was a Nike one, but I mean, we forget things in our old age. So
Well, what I'll say is like, this is to some people, this would be like, I don't know, the Suns deciding they're going to use a smaller basketball, right? Like that's what this almost feels like, hey, we're just going to alter the size of the thing. This became a big deal with the deflate gate situation with footballs being deflated in the NFL. It's always some way to find an advantage in a sport. And I think that that's what makes this look so shady. What makes it look so wrong is that it's the Yankees, and here they are seeking out some sort of advantage when their competitive advantage already is the ridiculous amount of money that team makes and has to spend on players and top talent, right?
yeah,
So,
but
the fact
Derek,
that now
this
they brought in a physicist to engineer a bat for them is just crazy.
they're just using that money on the top talent in the science field to get better. I have no problem with it, but let's
Mhm.
turn our focus a little bit on the Arizona Diamondbacks. You talked about this on the PHNX Diamondbacks show, about fans not being too happy with that first series, despite still coming out with a big comeback win on Sunday. Are fans overreacting to the first series, and hopefully do things even out in New York?
I don't really know what happened, Espo, over the last, I guess, 3 years of us doing this podcast, right? Like, we started this at the tail end of one of the worst seasons in Diamondbacks history, and now we got to a point where, yeah, I understand that the opening series was a bit disappointing. It felt like the Diamondbacks really had a chance there to take 3 of 4 from the Cubs and win the series, right? And I think that would have made things feel a bit better. Mostly it's just the fact that it's been such sloppy play from this team. You have to be encouraged by the offense and what they're doing, but the sloppy defensive play is just uncharacteristic of the Diamondbacks. What I said the other day on the show was pretty much the fact that there's a lot of growing pains here, and people want to, kind of label and blame Torey Lovullo for a lot of the decisions he made. And that's fair. He did make some bad decisions. He did have to make some tough decisions that a manager probably shouldn't put themselves in regards to, like Ketel Marte hitting DH. And if they need to move Ketel out of that DH spot, they only really have one backup infielder, and things could go wrong really quickly with the limited amount of players that they have available for them to do certain moves with. Torey likes versatility. He likes guys that can play different positions. It's one of the reasons why Garrett Hampson is on the team, but Hampson has already made some mistakes and been kind of the center of, a decision where the Diamondbacks lost their DH in the finale there against the Cubs. But all in all, everything ended up working out. Ryan Nelson made history and the Diamondbacks won the game and split the series. I just thought it was odd that what a lot of people wanted to do on a Sunday evening, afternoon, after watching their team win a baseball game, is go on to Twitter and demand that the manager gets fired and complain about, poor decisions that I don't think anybody would be like, yeah, that was a great decision, considering they didn't really work out for them and they ended up having to put a pitcher in a critical spot to get a big hit. Like, no, the question of, do you think this game was well managed, is going to be a no from, I think, everybody. But I think at the end of the day, the Diamondbacks still won. And the point being that, hey, sometimes wins are sloppy. Sometimes wins aren't perfect. Sometimes things don't go the way you think you're going to go. At the end of the day, though, good teams find a way to win, and that's what the Diamondbacks found a way to do. They basically generated the biggest comeback so far this season, and their offense, once again, had a huge explosion in an inning, scoring 8 runs and helping them, win the ball game, or essentially winning the ball game for them at that point. But I don't know. It's just it's a sense of dissatisfaction after a win that kind of bothered me. I don't understand why you just, at least in this moment, can't be happy. I don't think it's an indication of things to come. I think it's an indication of a team that has new coaches in some critical spots that are, going to still have some growing pains coming together as a group.
I think what I struggle with all of it is, you think, oh, baseball, 162 games, right? Whatever, rough, couple innings in the first series. But then you think back to last year and it came down to one game. One game was the difference. And I think that is probably what a lot of people are struggling with is logically, okay, this is bound to happen throughout a season, but then you have the PTSD of last year and knowing it came down to that one win and that one loss that made all the difference. So I can understand the people being torn about it. What I don't understand is people wanting to fire a manager a handful of games in. Let me tell you, the Suns fired a coach 3 games in, back in the mid 2010s. Didn't work out real well. So running people out isn't always the best case scenario.
Well, I think that there are some people that have watched Torey manage this team for a while now, and they've disliked the way he manages and the things he does, and that's fine. But it's you as a fan that has those issues and not the organization and not the players, right? The results haven't always been there. Like I said, we started this podcast at the tail end of one of the worst seasons, the second worst season statistically in Diamondbacks history as far as their record was concerned. So Torey has been there during some bad times as well as some good times. But the fact that he was in 2 years able to turn a young team around from a 110 loss team to a appearance in the World Series does deserve a lot of credit as a manager for being a huge part of that. The one thing that he does really well is he connects this team. He makes young players believe in themselves. He makes, guys work together and trust their teammates, and just kind of creates a family culture that you really don't find in every clubhouse in Major League Baseball. There's a lot of weird things thrown around about Torey Lovullo, and he's definitely not a perfect manager. I think he would be the first person to say that. What he is, though, is he's the right manager for this particular job for the Arizona Diamondbacks and the way that they build talent from their farm system and utilize not only young players, but guys that, kind of come into the situation like Kevin Newman did last year as a guy that was kind of unknown what he would offer and instead became a huge asset for this team and went on to, get another contract with another Major League Baseball team. Right. So I don't know, Torey just does a great job with the talent that he's given and sometimes getting more out of those guys than most would.
All right. I've got the mustache behind the Mac, Shane Diefenbach producing. So I need to know, Derek, should he degenerate bet the Diamondbacks to win the series? Are we talking like a mortgage payment? What are you thinking here?
The Diamondbacks have their best 3 pitchers going in this series. It's Corbin Burnes, Zach Gallen, and Merrill Kelly. If they can't deliver on the mound for this team, if the Diamondbacks can't go in there and give the Yankees, a true fight in this series, I would understand fans being a bit concerned, but I will caution to say that this is only, 7 games into the series into the season after this series is over. So no reason to overreact. As far as Shane goes, though, Shane, put that mortgage payment down, baby. I'm betting on the Diamondbacks to win the series with this one, especially with those 3 guys on the mound. And again, Corbin Burnes, we haven't even had a chance to see what he can do yet.
How about the World Series? Should he just go all in?
That's probably a pretty good future bet at this point. I will say that, some publications did have the Diamondbacks before the season ranked in the top 5 and even in the top 3 as far as teams in contention for the World Series go. So I do think that they have a lot of things to clean up. But in the fact that they do have so much to clean up, they were still able to split a series against a pretty good Chicago Cubs team that went on to absolutely mollywop the A's in their next game. So I don't know. I'm kind of all in on the Diamondbacks right now.
I took the over
I
tonight.
say put that future bet on. Maybe not the mortgage payment on the World Series bet, but put the mortgage payment on the Yankee series.
Oh, well, look, we had a basketball team that a lot of people thought would be top 5, top 3. We know how that went, but hopefully it's better for the D-backs. He is the
What
mayor.
idiot said that? Who said that they were what? They are who? Oh, that's crazy.
I live in depression, Derek. He is the mayor, Derek Montilla. Catch him 5 days a week over on the PHNX Diamondbacks show. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you, guys.
Another special thanks to Derek Montilla for joining us. But it's time to talk about something that I think might get the mustache behind the Mac interested in the program. I really haven't let him talk today. He's on a bit of a suspension, mostly because I forgot to talk to him after my rant about the Suns. I was too emotionally hurt to pull him in. But I was on the internet the other day, and I found out that the NFL is going to allow teams to wear throwback jerseys and helmets for 4 games a season, up to 4 times. And when I look at this, I think, to me personally, I need the Arizona Cardinals right now to develop their throwback white jersey with the Arizona State flag on the sleeve. It's the Pat Tillman era. It's the Jake Plummer era. It was the first time this franchise went to the playoffs in the desert. I need to see it with the helmet with the old Cardinal because I'm a sucker for anything throwback. But Shane, I know you have a proclivity for another NFC West team. And how bad do you want to see some throwbacks make it in the mix, including the Cardinals?
I'm just all for anything new. And I guess new is old. Yeah. But to my eyes, like any difference in uniforms in the NFL is welcomed because they definitely have the least amount of wiggle room when it comes to what you can wear. Sock colors, accessory colors, visor colors, helmets. Like up until recently, what was it, 2-3 years ago, you weren't allowed to have an alternate helmet.
Yep.
And so I think it's great for the game. It's fun. It's obviously another revenue driver, but it's one that I'm happy to oblige. I already have one of that other team's jersey from their throwback collection, and objectively, it's one of the greatest jerseys in the NFL when it comes to throwbacks, and I'm excited to see it worn many times.
Look, I feel like the Cardinals jersey, I'm glad they changed them up. I'm glad that they have a newer look, but I still think it's fairly bland. Like it doesn't have a lot of character or touches that say we're the Arizona Cardinals. You could easily put that team back in St. Louis. You wouldn't have to change anything other than the word Arizona on it. What I love is there's still a simplicity in those throwback, white jerseys, but that state flag, that slight blue in it, line in it, give me that back. Let me experience a little of that. And yeah, you're going to make a lot of money on throwbacks. You don't think people are going to want to wear that Kyler Murray throwback, that Marvin Harrison throwback, or hell, sell some Jake Plummer throwbacks. Maybe a Larry Fitzgerald in that original jersey he wore. Just make this happen to give us something a little bit more interesting on the uniform front. That is another Southwest bias. I want to thank Shane Diefenbach behind the Mac. You can follow him at Shane Dief. On Twitter, you can follow the program at PHNX_sports. And as always, you can follow me at Espo. We'll talk to you next time. Ahoy hoy.